Yes, sir.
Okay, good morning. It is now 11:01, and I'm going to call to order the Board, the Electric Utility Board of Lubbock Power and Light. And on board comments, are there any? I would like to make one comment and welcome Matt Wade, the new city attorney. You want to stand up and wave and keep us all in line? Thank you, Matt. We're glad you're here.
I'm not here to keep y'all in line. That's Kelly's job.
Can we throw in Joel on you? No. Smart man, already showing his intelligence. Are there any other board comments that members of the board would like to make? Gonzalo?
Can I just say thank you for the opportunity to go to the APPA conference. It was a great conference. I took a lot of notes, and I look forward to sharing some of the ideas with the board. And next year it's in New Orleans, and I would just encourage a board member to take that opportunity.
We know you did well, and thank you for attending and learning for us. Public comment. Is there any public comment? Did anyone sign up? No. Tom saying no. Is the Mayor Payne coming today? Does anybody know? Not that you're aware of. Okay. But y'all are here. Christy and Tim, again, welcome. We love our city council members and want to keep you informed. And just to let you know, you might want to write down July 1st. That's when it'll be the Harvey show about the budget and strategy. So you're certainly welcome to attend. I've invited Matt also. So the more information we can share with you, we always like to do that because y'all are great folks. We appreciate it. Tim, you're getting up to speed, so I can ask you questions pretty soon, right?
Just don't expect a good answer.
Okay. We are now going to recess into executive session in accordance with VTCA Government Code 551.086 and 552.133 on competitive matters of LP&L. Second, VTCA Government Code 551.071 seeking the advice of and consultation with LP&L's attorneys on a matter in which the duty of the attorney to the governmental body under the Texas Disciplinary Rules of Professional Conduct of the State Bar of Texas clearly conflicts with Chapter 551 of the Government Code and seeking advice of its attorneys about pending or contemplated litigation or settlement offers. And 3, VTCA Government Code 551.074 to deliberate the appointment, employment, evaluation, reassignment, and/or duties of a public officer or employee, Electric Utility Board, Director of Utilities, Chief Administrative Officer, and General Counsel. It's now 11:05, and we're going to the second floor. Is that correct? Great. There's Matt. Okay. Again, thank the council members for being here. Good afternoon. It is now 12:16, and I'm going to call the Electric Utility Board of Lubbock Power and Light back into open session. We recessed the executive session about 11:59, 11:58, and so we're back in open session at 12:16. One thing that Joel, where's Joel? Okay. Are you going to mention about the award in your presentation? Are you going to, when you do your presentation, are you going to mention about the award ceremony at 3? Okay, you're going to do that. The first order of business is to approve the minutes from our regular Electric Utility Board meeting on May 21st. Do I hear a motion to that effect?
Move to approve.
Mr. Davis and Mr. Fields seconds. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. Motion carries 8-0. Joel, number 9. You're going to give us an update and report on everything there is, correct?
Everything there is to know about everything. There we go. Is that better? It's worse because you can hear me. Thank you, Madam Chair. Welcome aboard. We are, right after this, well, not right after, but at about 3 o'clock, the city is hosting an event for an awards ceremony where they recognize outstanding accomplishments of employees and groups around the city and whatnot. And they wanted to recognize Lubbock Power and Light for the efforts to get both into ERCOT and into the retail market. So this ceremony starts at 3. You all are welcome to come. This will be a social event. We're not going to consider this a board meeting, obviously, because there's no business to be conducted. But if you would like to come and attend, we'd certainly love to have you there as well. I expect it's probably going to take an hour to get through the whole thing, and we're not going to be first. So you might be there for a bit if you come right away. So I'd love to have you. But to just know that the city is going to the length of recognizing Lubbock Power and Light for what we've all done, and I think that's great.
Here in this room?
Yes, sir. Here in this room. I want to talk a little bit. There's been a lot of chatter on the wire from ERCOT, and I'll start out by saying I'm pretty proud of the administration of ERCOT right now because they're very much wanting to speak openly about the situation that we're all in with energy, and this is true across the country, but ERCOT's talking more openly than anybody that I can tell anywhere else in the country. The issue that Pablo Vegas, he's the CEO, is trying to bring up is the fact that we've got a lot of data center type loads coming online quick, and it's quicker than ERCOT or even the utilities can keep up with. And it's really causing some alarms. These are not loads that are going to be satisfied with just standard issue work practices that we've got because they can come online really quickly. And these are coming in the size of some mid-sized towns. You know, the amount of electricity, their consumption could be comparable to a mid-sized city. So it's pretty eye-opening for what we need to do. And he's wanting to sound the alarm, and it sounds like our legislature is wanting to take some action too to make sure that we can manage this in a manner that would allow generation to be built and get online, and transmission lines too. Consequently, you can't have one without the other in order to serve that amount of load. So they were looking at the prospects of just almost doubling the size of ERCOT with that much load coming on. It's not quite double, but it's significantly more than what we would ever see in a normal growth period. You know, we might plan for 2% to 4% growth. In Texas is growing very well because we've got a very business-friendly environment here. So we're growing faster than we can keep up with already, and we're not even really talking about those kind of data centers. These are mostly data centers that would be using AI technologies in order to service other businesses and whatnot. So that's extremely energy intense as compared to just maybe a Bitcoin miner. The Bitcoin miners are a problem as well. They're wanting to come in at maybe a couple hundred megawatts. We're getting a lot of requests even here to try to facilitate those loads, and it's something that we may be able to do or may not be able to do, but Luke and his group are running through the planning aspects of it to see what we can accommodate, and we'll do what we can. But our system is pretty tight, pretty compact, and we can only do so much ourselves. And this, what I'm talking about with ERCOT, is way beyond any of that, and we haven't had any of those kinds of requests yet, really. But they're really wanting to come in and get going quickly. And honestly, I think the business community needs the benefits of having AI to help us out, because we're still in a workforce crisis mode all across the country, and I know that we are here. So having technology that can help you manage your business is a good thing, but being able to supply the energy to it is a whole different ballgame. So we are concerned about that, and we're following it, and we'll stay in tune with what ERCOT is wanting to do, and the legislature for that matter, and try to see if there's things that we can do with our local delegates to try to help out with some rules that might make some sense.
Joel, is there any kind of approval process for data centers or crypto?
That's part of the overall planning process generally. So there's not necessarily approvals per se, because the utilities will come forward with their load growth numbers that ERCOT can compile and put together, and then try to determine, what the needs are going to be. What we're talking about, such a rapid growth that none of us could keep up with. But it's not really so much an approval per se. They can, if you can accommodate them as a local utility like us, for example, then they can come online.
Okay, so if somebody has a data center,
Mm-hmm.
they can just put it in and say, connect me,
Yeah.
and that's it.
Well, I mean, it's not quite as easy as that, but yeah, it's, for the most part, at the most simplistic level, that's correct. I mean, we would take a look at, if a data center wanted to come in here, and maybe it's one of those that we categorize, and I'm going to steal something from Harvey, we categorize some of these as a load of a questionable permanence. Are they fly-by-night? Could they be here and gone within a day or a week or something like that? So we'd take a look at the investment that we'd have to make and try to figure out, do they need to share in the cost of that? Or pay for the whole thing, whatever the case may be. So, you know, it's a bit of a drawn-out affair to be able to get somebody online, actually. But within a year and a half period, you could probably get it done if you got the capacity in your system to support it.
So do those data centers potentially take away from residential areas or business areas existing?
Well,
Potentially
I mean,
pulling from the grid?
potentially, yes. I mean, if you just imagine if we got an energy demand that we can't meet. You know, the Uri was something like that, except it was a catastrophic weather event that caused that to happen. We didn't have the generation facilities to be able to meet the load that we had at that time. This could create a scenario, something like that. And the problem that we have is it creeps. So you do it a little bit here and a little bit there, and before you know it, you're in bad shape. And so that's why I think that they really want to get in tune with how many of these are going to come online and whether or not they can regulate that.
Joel, any projection on the impact for the remainder of the summer or even next year?
Summer, ERCOT's already said they do trying to think what it's called, a molar or a moper or something they put out, which is a monthly review of what the ability of ERCOT to perform is. And they were looking out to August, and in August they've gave some percentages of bad things happening. The percentages are in the low teens, like 12% or something like that. But they're pretty confident that they're going to be able to get through the summer. And you're always going to have some percentage, right, of things going bad. You're always going to have that. And so the numbers aren't alarming, but again, I do appreciate the fact that they're willing to talk about these things openly, because we all need to be aware that there's still opportunity for things to go bad.
What do you think they might build additional generating facilities down south?
Yeah, with the loan program that's out, that the legislature approved, they're already pretty heavily subscribed for people wanting to get to that money, that low interest or free, whatever the case may be. So I'm pretty hopeful that they're going to be able to build some what we call dispatchable generators that can come online. Now you're looking at a year and a half, 2-3 years, something like that. So we got to get there. Yeah, so anywhere from, it depends. If you got a site that's already built and you just need to put a new generator there, you can probably get that done in about a year and a half. But if you need to build a new facility, greenfield type thing, then you're probably looking at closer to 5 years. 3 years, certainly.
Does this make our generators more attractive?
I think they're good looking already, to be honest with you, but I would certainly hope that they do. And that's one of the things that we're going to try to play on, because if somebody wants to buy it, hopefully they could use the loan program for that reason, because these are generators that are not otherwise going to be online. If nothing else, we've got at least one site with Ty Cook that should be very appealing to people. It's already existing. It's got the transmission. It's got the gas line. You need to bring your own generator type thing if they wanted it to be bigger than what we've got. Okay. That's all I have in my report, Madam Chair.
Anybody have any random questions for Mr. Ivy? Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Joel. Number 10, here she comes. She's the one who keeps Harvey straight.
I do my best.
And what page will you be on in the book?
Starts on page 31 in the book. So we're going to go over our April financials. A couple things happened in April. We made our big bond and principal payment, and we fully transitioned into the retail market. So that's what we're going to be seeing going through our financials. Starting with our balance sheet and our cash flows, we did have a decrease of $23.8 million in our cash flows, or in our cash. Going over to our cash flows for our operating activities, we came in about $4.1 million in positive cash flow, so we're receiving payments from customers. And then in our financing activities, you can see a negative $31.9 million, so that's going to be mainly the bond and the bond principal and interest payments that we made. You can see that reflected in our liabilities. Our liabilities decreased $30.5 million, so that's going to be mostly our bond payment and the accrued interest that we paid out. Then in our investing activities, we have a positive cash flow of $4.1 million, and that's going to be interest income as well as refund on CIP expenses for the previous month. Overall, we did see a decrease in our net position since last month of $3.5 million.
Can I, excuse me?
Yeah.
Could you go back to that slide?
Sure.
Is this common for the months of April and March? As far as, I see a lot of deficits.
As far, for the cash, yes, every April we make a big bond and interest payment. So we're always going to see our bonds payable go to zero, and then all the interest we've accrued up to that point we pay out, so that's going to drop too. As far as, you know, receivables, there is a large deficit, but that's for moving out of the purchase power business. So we have people making payments and wrapping up their final bills on that.
Okay. All right, thank you.
All right, going on to our financial ratios, we do see a drop in our days cash, which we had a large decrease, so we're going to see that affected here. We're still well above the 90-day benchmark at 150 days. I do see this number starting to increase again in June once we start receiving more payments in on the market billing to the retail market. In our operating ratio, we do have a slight increase from 9.33 to 9.4. This is going to be due to the fact that we did have billing delays in April once moving into the retail market. That's all going to be caught up in May. So in May, we'll start to see this number go back down more to normal. And then...
Okay, so excuse me, in May, we'll see the line item for TDU or the delivery
Yeah, you're
rates.
going to see it in a minute on the income statement. It's just, I'll explain it more in a minute, but we did have billing delays. Not everything was delayed in billing, but we got less revenues than we thought we would get, but that's going to catch up in May when we got caught up with
Okay, so we'll see that
billing.
in May.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
And then our current ratio, I told y'all last month that once we made the big bond payment, we'd see that go back up over 2, and you can see now it went from 1.95 to 2.47, which means that we have enough assets to cover our liabilities almost 2.5 times. Okay, so I still have it broken out in our distribution revenue. We did end up getting $6.2 million. You can see we came in at about half of what the budgeted number was. We had billing delays. Some billing went into May. That has all been caught up by May, so you'll see we'll actually be over our budget in May. But another thing I want to point out is I took our total budget for this 6 months and divided it by 6. This revenue is load driven, so we're going to see the majority of it come in the summer months. And charges for services, that would be our metered revenue. So we billed for a few days in April, so we did have some lagging revenue and also some lagging purchase power expenses. And go into our budget to actuals. So last month I did split out the distribution revenue. It was 0 because we weren't doing anything yet, but we're at 9% now. And then for our T-cost revenue and our hold harmless, we're right on target at 58%. Operating expenses were coming under budget at 41%. And then our operating income, we're about the same as we were last month. I think last month we were 20%, now we're 19%. I did run down some numbers for May, and May it looks like we're going to come in at about 36%. So it's starting to trend in the right direction there. Oh, sorry, Harvey. It's Harvey's turn. Does anybody have any questions for me?
Are there any questions? Thank you very much.
Thank y'all.
Harvey, you gonna be the tag team on this?
I'm gonna show you a chart that in and of itself looks rather boring, but there's an important story behind it. So on June 3rd, Standard & Poor's had promised that they wanted to have they said they wanted to have a follow-up surveillance of our credit position after we entered into the market. They did hold out the prospect that they may look at the outlook, maybe. When we went into that, we had a credit rating. You can see there on right underneath the highlighted one. So in November of last year, after we took out our final bond for the SPS final termination of that contract, that payment, they gave us a rating with a developing outlook, which was kind of a dubious distinction above negative. It's not often used. It just means it may be getting better, but they didn't want to really give a stable on it. So they were really rather stingy, I'll use that phrase, stingy about how much they wanted to begrudgingly move it. They said that they would follow up with us. So they did follow up with us in May. We went through a full review, had everything gone according to plan. So they were looking for, they had a number of questions. Did it go according to plan? Did customers transfer over? Are you receiving your cash? Are reps actually paying you the money? So with all of those, and then the idea too that no matter what the customer does, when we bill a rep, we get paid. So our money is guaranteed. So that, in their eyes, there's a couple things that had happened now. Now you're not subject to purchase power risk anymore. And you don't have collectible risk now on your customers just to receive. When we charge for the delivery rate, we don't have any risk of collecting that money. It just comes from the reps now. With that in mind, they went ahead and upgraded. It was a bit of a surprise because Standard & Poor's has been probably the harshest with us of any of the three rating agencies. They they gave us a rating upgrade from A to A+, and they moved our outlook up from developing to stable. And it's an important thing because it's a recognition at this point that everything that LP&L has promised, everything that LP&L has said it would do, has achieved it successfully, financially, operationally, on a customer basis. So everything we said that we would do and would happen has come to pass to their satisfaction. And we're in a strong financial position. We continue to remain very strong, and we're entering into a very stable period with a lot of risk that's been removed. Those were the comments from S&P regarding us. But I put in here just a little bit of a history because there's an important story underneath of this. And I took it all the way back to 2007. In 2007, at this point, if you can think about history, it's just about 3 years after the EUB came into existence. It was a very difficult time. The utility was going through some significant challenges. At that time, we had a BBB- stable, which means you are one notch above junk bond credit. You are that close. You are really on the edge of the envelope to being not creditworthy anymore. So, and under real excellent leadership by the EUB, and think about all the people that have come who in the historical for the EUB, everybody who'd been a part of that process, all the men and women of this community that stood behind the utility, guided the utility in very difficult times, and staff leadership, you can see the progression of going from almost junk bond status to leaping up to A-, which is now a really good move, then getting up by 2010, within 3 years, you're now into AA territory. That's pretty unprecedented speed to be able to move a utility. And that had a lot to do with the leadership and guidance of the EUB, as well as the staff. And as a utility, we were doing quite well. We maintained that all the way. In 2015, there was a decision that we wanted to move to ERCOT. A lot of things were going on during this period. 2018 was the beginning of the investment in the transmission interconnect with ERCOT. We began that process, but when you do that, you begin to borrow money. So when you borrow money, they start looking at your metrics. So then you start to notice the effect of it. So we took out, I think in total cash was about $93 million in 2018. So that stable wiggled down to negative, which means they're watching you. And then 2020, that got downgraded to A+ and stable. At that point, we're in full-fledged build-out. Actually, it started off with Sherryland, but became Oncor to build out our transmission assets. It is a massive undertaking that I'll tell you about in a minute. So we make a massive investment, and then by the time we get to June, we have 70% of our customers into the ERCOT market, and Kelly talked about that a little bit in the executive, but just mentioning that we'd made that move. As we made that move, we got moved from stable to negative. You can see this downward progression now. And then in 2021, we also took out another $266 million bond issuance to cover our part of gaining those T-cost assets. $298 million altogether, went to negative. Then in 2022, we got downgraded again to A with a negative rating, and that's when we took out about $63 million, and that was for our distribution final piece of the interconnect to disconnect from SPP into ERCOT. So we took out $63 million then, and then we had our final movement here in November for the payment of the SPS payment. Got past that hurdle, December of 2023, made our full interconnection with ERCOT. We're sitting at a developing rating, and now you're starting to see the climb back up. And so now we're into the market, now we're at AA, and what this means is it's a validation of where we've come, and your bond credit ratings reflect that. So we are headed in a good direction. What got us into a good position was good leadership by the EUB and staff, and what will continue to carry us forward to being the premier entity for system delivery and energy delivery as a utility in Texas. It's going to be the leadership, ongoing leadership on your behalf, as well as staff. So it's a historic movement. It's a big piece. It's out there in the market. That reflects, and if you think also during this time, we invested in our T-cost assets about $320 million. So how big is that to us? If I went back to 2018, our net capital assets was about $233 million. As of today, it's $650 million. That just gives you a perspective of how big this utility has grown as an entity. It's significant. It's over double, almost starting to approach tripling its size. It's become a very big entity. We continue to perform well, continue to meet our metrics, entering into stable territory. So I just wanted to give that perspective. It's a little line item. It did hit the news wire for credit. Other utilities are seeing it. We've already, Joel and I, and I think other staff members have heard from other utilities. People watch it. It's something that people look at. It's like, you're on a good move. You're on a good path. So, any questions by the board?
Any questions? One of the reasons that I had the former board members, last time,
Yeah.
they were the ones down in there in 7 and 9 when things were
They were.
in the ditch.
Yeah.
And their perseverance. And then I'd also like to especially recognize Dan, that he was a part of all this with his financial acumen and leadership that got us to where we are. So it is those that went before us, and certainly Dan's to be commended for his leadership during this years and staff. So
Yeah.
this is huge.
Yes.
To come from, as you said, in like your junk, and now you're really pretty cute.
Yeah. Yes,
Thank you.
absolutely. We would be I think as you would say, attractive at that point. Attractive assets.
We'd be asked to the prom, right?
Okay, thank you so much.
Number 11, is that Blair, is that you?
That is me. Thank you for taking the time to listen to us. So the proposal recommendation before you today, number 11, is a contract with Empowered LLC. It is a company that we use for compliance, consulting, recommendations. We do have a separate contract with them that we talk with them on the phone on a regular basis. They provide input, help us structure our policies and procedures. The contract before you today is $500,000. It's for an individual to stand in the trenches with us, to be a subject matter expert, to be there with us and help guide and mentor some of our younger SMEs. We are in need of this contract today. We've had struggles with keeping people in not only in our compliance department, but our EMS administrators. They've been somewhat elusive. I'll coin a phrase from Mr. Sims. They are purple unicorns with a pink horn. You know, those unheard of. We can't find them and can't retain them. I'll entertain any questions.
Does anybody have any questions?
Blair, is this person going to be on site, or do they
Yes,
work
sir.
remotely?
They will be here with us.
How many do we have currently on staff? You said the,
EMS administrators? We have, currently we have one. We have an interim, and we have a supervisor that we are about to lose.
Any other questions? So this is to help us keep the unicorns. Do I hear a motion to approve this resolution for Empower to help us with compliance and critical operations in a not-to-exceed amount of $500,000 in an initial term of 1 year? Dr. Ryan made the motion. Mr. Harville seconds. Any other discussion? If not, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those that say nay, the motion carries 8-0. Thank you, Blair. Anything else, Mr. Ivy? Harvey, did you want to say something, or Joel? You want to add something?
Yeah, I was going to mention something. So, and you'd mentioned it earlier, and that is just a reminder that on July 1st, Monday, 11 o'clock on the second floor, we have our Finance Review Committee meeting. At that meeting, we're going to be covering the budget proposed for next year. We'll also we'll also get a reviewed snapshot of where we are on our financials part of our strategic plan. So we'll refresh those numbers. So we'll have refreshed numbers for those. And then a third part of it is what we're going to be launching for enterprise risk management and associated with all of this. So that's all coming attractions for the July 1st meeting.
Great. So I think this is an important meeting. Those of you that can, please circle July 1st, 11 o'clock.
Yes.
Second floor.
That's correct.
Correct. And then those of you that can, this afternoon at 3, the award ceremony. And will that be by the city council or city management? The city manager, Joel. The council?
I'm sorry.
The council will be making the awards?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, is there any further business? Thank you so much. Just notice it's 12:46. You get to go back to work. Thank you. Meeting adjourned.
Everybody gets their numbers.